Hi guys, this screencast is primarily for the students who missed class for the multicultural fair. By the way, all of the food was awesome. I especially enjoyed the Nigerian really spicy rice. Anyway, this screencast is meant to catch you up on what you need to know for your drafting of your first draft based on your annotated bibliography. We're going to talk about creating a graph for your sources, much like the example I showed in the library on Tuesday. And then I'm going to talk to you about typing your first draft from your bibliography. I am a big believer in working smarter, not harder. And if you've already typed and you've already come up with good statements about your primary sources and you've already cited from your secondary sources, you can use that to write your first draft. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to preview for you the novel Frankenstein. There's a reading schedule posted to my website, and I've already given it to you if you've picked up a copy of the book. I actually think I'm going to work backwards here and talk to you a little bit about Frankenstein. You do need to read the preface, that's page 1 through chapter 6, pages 1 through 46, for next Wednesday. You are going to have a quiz next Wednesday. You have to read the book in order to do well on the quiz. Let me talk to you about what goes on in the preface of this book. It's actually a frame story, much like we had in the Canterbury Tales, or we talked about in Titanic, or the Notebook. In that preface, it's epistolary in nature. Epistolary, you might remember, means about letters, written letters. An epistle is a letter. So this preface shares letters from a man named Robert Walton to his sister, Mrs. Saville, who still lives in England. Walton is traveling to Russia and the North Pole, and he is an explorer. He is excited and feels very passionate about traveling to places that have yet to be discovered. He's especially excited. He describes it as the land of eternal sun. So I want you to think of this preface as that story outside the story. It's actually Robert Walton on his trip to the North Pole who meets Victor Frankenstein, who is the doctor, I should say scientist, who creates the monster. So please don't give up on the book after reading just a couple pages of the preface. I acknowledge it's a little hard to get into, but you will come to enjoy it, I promise you. All right, let's go back to talking about your research annotated bibliography, because your final draft is due next Friday. And I want to talk to you about how to use your sources and organize them in such a way that I can really effectively help you move from your annotated bibliography to your draft. So you may remember this from the library yesterday. I used it as a template to talk about how I'm organizing my sources. I'd like you to sketch out these circles and rectangles here. And in the circles, I want you to record your AP text, the title of the primary source on the left one. And then on the right, your outside text, the text that you're comparing to your AP text. I'd like you to please in between write your thesis. And your thesis is something like what I wrote about Homer's Odyssey. I'm arguing that Homer's Odyssey is ultimately more valuable than the film Donnie Darko, because Homer's Odyssey establishes that coming-of-age theme, and Donnie Darko really only builds on it. And so I'm going to argue that the Odyssey should be studied by AP students instead of a film like Donnie Darko. Now, I also want you to record the author and or the title for any of your critical sources. The critical sources are the ones you found in the database, and they discuss things like character, theme, symbolism. They're hopefully the sources you're using to describe the theme of your AP text. And finally, I want you to record the name of the author of your critical sources on the outside text. These are the sources, I should say, that you're using to describe the theme, the characters, etc. in your outside text. Now, let's talk about how you can move from your annotated bibliography to drafting an essay. As I said earlier in this screencast, I am about working smarter, not harder. By that I mean using things you've already done. Why not build off of your bibliography document to create your final essay? I'm going to show you how to do this, but I want you to use your bibliography using the Save As button and create a new document that actually contains a lot of the same stuff from your annotated bibliography. You're going to use the File and then Save As button and change it with your title and the word Final at the end. And then insert a page break so that you can create your works cited page out of all of the sources you've already typed. You've already put your sources into MLA format in your annotated bibliography, so why not use that to create your works cited page? Next, this is how I'm actually going to ask you to write your essay. Use your primary source and your first critical source to establish the theme in the writing of the essay. So that's probably body paragraphs 1 and 2, the first 2 paragraphs after your introduction, in which you establish the primary source and use the critical source to establish the theme. Then I want you to present your outside primary source and describe the theme in that text, probably using your critical source to illustrate it. Then I want you to compare and contrast the text and explain which one would work best in an AP class. Now, I know I often have students argue or asking, how long should it be? Well, the requirement is it's a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5. I envision you having between 6 and 10 paragraphs to complete these things. I can talk with you more on one-on-one about how you'd like to take your ideas and actually formulate them into paragraphs. But I want you to think about doing all of these things in your writing. The last thing I want you to consider is your audience. We're going to talk in more detail about that Thursday's class, but your audience is both your AP students, fellow students, and your AP teacher. That's me and Ms. Brady next year. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about what I'm looking for, what Ms. Brady's looking for, and what your AP student audience would be looking for. Now, sorry guys, let's now talk about a sample how to take your annotated bibliography and to draft an essay using the same document in which you wrote your annotated bibliography. So I'm going to pull up my annotated bibliography for you to see, which you already should have a copy of. And I'm going to show you how I'm actually going to use this document to create my first draft. So there are plenty of things that I can use in order to write my first draft. I've already created this heading here, and I did that by insert and then page number, top of page, this. Okay, and then of course I write my last name and I make sure that it's in the same font as the rest of the essay. Okay. In addition, I also already have my heading here. This is my name. This is my teacher's name. This is the class. And by the way, this is the period. So if you're in first period, keep it first. Third, right, type third period. If it's sixth period, type sixth period. Finally, this is the date it's due. It's not the date you'd start writing it. You also have the title here, and you have an introduction. Now guys, there's no reason to retype or to rewrite your introduction. We'll talk about revising introductions to make them better, but for now, use the same introduction that you have from your annotated bibliography and simply add to it. The other thing that you can use are these. These are the citations, the MLA formatted citations. In fact, what I want you to do is use these to create your works cited page. So you want to insert a page break. And at the top of that page break, you want to type, of course, the title of this page, which is Works with an S, all right, S, Works Cited. Then, because you've already done your proper MLA formatting, I want you to eliminate from this page the annotated portion of your annotated bibliography. But because I'm a hoarder, I don't want you to get rid of this. Instead, what I want you to do is copy, paste that portion up here. You're not going to be able to use all the words and all of the ideas, but there are plenty of phrases. For example, look at this one. I can use this in the paragraph where I discuss the themes of coming of age and caring for one's family in the Odyssey. I can use this actual sentence in my writing of the first draft. So when I copy and paste, I'm going to paste it up there so that I come back to it and reuse it. But for now, I'm going to generate my works cited page by cutting and pasting up here so that I can reuse any important ideas when I write my essay. I'm going to show you how I do this. Here, I'm taking this portion as well. I am pasting it up here. And finally, here I am cutting and I'm pasting it up here. The whole idea here is, guys, why get rid of good ideas that you've already written? You know, why get rid of good text that you've already written when you can use it in your first draft? Now, of course, you see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sources. They're in alphabetical order: B, D, F, H, and T. Notice also the second line is indented. I know a lot of people have trouble fixing this. Many of you, I'm sure, copied and pasted from your database or from EasyBib a citation, and then you encountered this when you tried to tab over. There are two ways to fix this. One is on your keyboard, hit Enter and then Tab, and you should be able to unlock that locked margin. Or you can take this second arrow here and do that so that you are able to indent the second line. But you want to think of your MLA citations as a reverse paragraph. The first line should actually be over here against the margin, and the second and third lines should be indented. So what we've done here is we've used the bibliography entries, the citations, to create our works cited, and we've copied and pasted a lot of the ideas from our annotated bibliography to use in our first draft. I'm happy to help you continue doing this one-on-one, but I really encourage you not to start from scratch too much, but to use many of the ideas and information that you already have in your annotated bibliography. Of course, one of the things we have to do here is save as to create a new document, and let's call this the original title that I had, which was, if you look at the title here, Family Identity Odyssey and Darko. But I'm going to call this Final instead of Annotated Bibliography so that I can identify it as a different document. So guys, that brings us to the end of my discussion here about using your bibliography to create a first draft. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in school.